Scott, all I'm saying is all podcasts is good. The other podcast we're listening to is trash, and that podcast is pretty decent. That's all I got to say. Now pull to Jalen Ramsey. Let's play the music. Scott, I'm going to admit that I think Jalen's becoming my new favorite defensive player.
That sounds surprising.
I mean, he just brings that swag. I mean, when's the last time you've seen Jacksonville getting talked to on Undisputed and all these other radio, just TV shows? It's been
not
a
in
while.
my lifetime.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's exciting. I mean, hopefully it doesn't backfire on him like it does for everyone else. But for right now, he's contending with J.J. Watt. I'm liking the swag he brings in Jacksonville.
Yeah, and without him even on the team, they make Kirk Cousins look like crap.
Oh, okay. The whole team didn't play good. Even Blake Bortles didn't play good either.
He had 150 yards.
And he also threw a pick right in the wide open arms of that defender. All right. Well, anyways. What's up, guys? This is Pixies Dynasty, your podcast for all things Dynasty Fantasy Football. I'm your host, broadcasting from coast to coast, Matt Phillips. Alongside me is the Fantasy Leprechaun with his fantasy pot of gold, rocking an Allen Robinson Bears jersey. Scott Euler. How you doing, Scott?
Doing good. Where was the French toast part in that opening?
I gotta switch it up every once in a while, dude. I gotta switch it up. I gotta save that for the week 1 grand opening start of the season show.
I got you.
Anyways.
I won't reference it again.
Yeah. Always bashing me, man. Don't like it.
I'm just hungry.
Yeah, it is. It's angry. But anyways, Scott, what's new? How was your week?
Week is good. Did a little lazy river floating around yesterday. Planning on going out to the lake today, but the wife sustained an injury, so we'll see how she's ready for battle or not.
Sustained an injury. Sunburnt?
We'll just say plantar fasciitis.
I don't know what that is.
So the thing Antonio Gates always had with his foot.
No, like
really, she just ripped her big toenail off.
Oh,
it's so bad.
That is disgusting. Oh my goodness. All right, guys. So we're going to talk about preseason week 2. Got a couple things to talk about. Then we can go on to draft do's and don'ts, as this is the week usually where people start drafting their leagues and redrafts. So, other than that, Scott, before we start, anything you want to say about this week or anything like that?
Just when you go into your draft, guys. Just be ready for anything. Don't have it planned out. Be ready for anything. Just take the board as it comes to you. But we'll dive more into that when we get there.
But before we go into that, let's talk about this, the big news. So obviously the big news coming out on Saturday, which is news coming out on Saturdays is very weird. Josh Gordon has returned to the Cleveland Browns, which is surprising. I thought he would try to do the whole preseason, whole training camp because of Hard Knocks, but he's coming back. He's not eligible to practice right now. Apparently that's a thing. You have to wait till NFL's approval to practice, but you can go to meetings and go to off-the-field activities.
You also have to pass the conditioning test.
Well, I don't think he's having a problem passing the conditioning test. But it looks like everything's all set for him to start week 1. It's just him running routes and getting the playbook in. Scott, anything you want to say?
Hard Knocks this is the pot of gold.
I know. I might actually turn in and watch Hard Knocks.
Every week it's something else. You get the first week where we're introducing us to, Baker Mayfield. The second week, the Corey Coleman trade. Mm-hmm. And Antonio Callaway getting busted with marijuana. Yeah. And now we got Josh Gordon coming back and Corey Coleman's return to Cleveland where they play against each other. Yeah. It's just one thing after another here. So this is first of all, this is the best season of Hard Knocks we found, and no surprise, it's the Browns, all that dysfunction around there. But and then Hugh Jackson too. He's just showing to me, he is incapable of really being a head coach. And I was the defender of Hugh Jackson.
He made Antonio Callaway play the whole game or something as a punishment.
I don't really have a problem with that. It's a lot of the other things and interactions with the other coaches.
Well,
and just things like that
Josh
really
Gordon first broke the news that he wasn't going to leave the team, you were dead set that it wasn't good. So now he came back probably earlier than a lot of people expected. How do you think on the fantasy?
Well, I still don't think it was a good thing him taking a leave from the team. So
Yeah, we'll see.
It hurt his. I was looking at it from a value perspective. His value is already too high. Now he's leaving the team, so I didn't think it was too good. But we'll see how he comes. I don't like the number one receiver in that offense, regardless of who it is, because when you look at Tyrod, he's never been able to produce a wide receiver
Watkins,
one.
2015.
He had like 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. It's not a wide receiver.
That's pretty good for a wide receiver 3 or 4.
That's pretty good.
If you're a wide receiver 3 or 4, that's pretty good.
That's not hold Josh Gordon because he's
let's just
as a top 50 asset.
Everyone's projecting eventually through the season that Baker Mayfield's going to be the starter. So if Baker
not Hugh Jackson,
but if Baker Mayfield's on the field, does that favor the receivers of the Browns, or does that?
Well, it's an unknown, so I would say yes, because we've seen Tyrod, and look at what those receivers that he had in Buffalo are doing everywhere else. Chris Hogan, Marquise Goodwin, Sammy Watkins has looked good, and there's another one I think. But Robert Woods with the Rams, like all these guys are flourishing.
Tyler wasn't playing with Chris Hogan, was he?
Yes, he had all 4 of them on the same team. All 4 of them on the same team, and still couldn't. And I like Tyrod. I think he's a good quarterback. He just doesn't. He's not going to feed one. He'll spread it. He'll run it. He takes a lot of rushing. All of his rushing attempts that he gets, that's great for fantasy. It takes away from the receivers. So I have a hard time finding Tyrod being able to produce a wide receiver 1, 1,400-yard receiver, 14 touchdown type receiver. Mm-hmm. Now, can you do 1,008 with a guy? He could probably do 1,008 with 2 guys, really. But that's not a wide receiver 1. That's closer to a wide receiver 2.
You can get a wide receiver. What is ADB right now? What, like 50? What was his draft?
It was around 50 overall, which to me, when you factor in the risk of Josh Gordon to take him that high, that means you're expecting him to do what he did in 2012. And
yeah. Well, just go if you just take the sample size, okay, obviously he's on my roster. He's my wide receiver 4, so I mean, I'm not projecting like huge numbers. So like, if you just take the sample size in terms of his 5 games he played last season, and you just add those stats into a 16-game season, same stats as T.Y. Hilton. How does that make you feel about that?
T.Y. Hilton last year?
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton last year.
That's not good. T.Y. with Jacoby Brissett throwing to him. All right.
I think T.Y. still finished wide receiver 2 numbers, I think, so.
I would have to look it up.
Obviously, if you draft Gordon as your wide receiver 1, then you're going to have some problems because obviously that uncertainty is a big factor. But if you can get him late in drafts as a wide receiver 3, possibly wide receiver 4, then why not take the shot on him, Scott? What do you think?
It just depends on who else is available and what's all around your draft. But I'm not a fan. I would pass.
I'm a fan. I believe in Josh Gordon. You going to look up the numbers of T.Y. Hilton?
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
In the meantime, let's talk about probably the biggest injury news was Rashad Penny. He has surgery on his broken finger, expected to miss the rest of preseason. They say he's going to start he's going to play week 1. But that's, to me, I'm throwing a red flag. Chris Carson was already looking good. Chris Carson was going to be the bell cow, saying he's going to be the bell cow. Now, rookie running backs you probably reached for is going to be missing the rest of the training camp. Can't be good news for Rashad Penny. Scott, what do you think?
Now, this is great news for Chris Carson. He's, without a doubt, week 1, unless he sustains injury in week 3 of preseason. He made it through last night fine. He did fumble twice at the goal line, so that's a little bit concerning. Chris Carson, we'll have to keep an eye out.
Offensive line's still trash, too.
Right.
But
anyways, it's great news for Chris Carson. You should be week 1 having, the workhorse for that offense there. And then when Penny comes back, gets healthy, he'll be worked in a little bit more. But it will, because he's missing some time with his broken finger, broken hand, whatever he's got going on. It was bad enough he had to have surgery on it. So he will miss some time. So there will be some sort of getting acclimated back into the offense.
And Seahawks are just getting banged up. Doug Bottom's finally running. He's sprinting, revamping his conditioning. So, hopefully Penny and Baldwin both are ready for week 1. It's something you got to keep your eye on. I'm a Baldwin owner, so I'm keeping an eye on it. If you're a Penny owner, keep an eye on that too. But at this point, I agree Chris Carson's the guy that you want. In redraft leagues, you can probably get Chris Carson a lot.
We took him in the 16th round.
16th round?
Yep. I did a mock draft 2 weeks ago. I took him in 16th. Instead of grabbing a kicker or defense, I grabbed me one of them running backs because you just don't know what happens.
We'll talk about it a little bit later in our drafts. But Chris Carson's definitely not valued as high, so you can probably get him very late.
Speaking of the Seahawks, there's been tons of great news coming out for Brandon Marshall.
Really?
They've been singing his praises. He looks like a completely different player than he did last year. Last year he was battling ankle injuries, and he's just playing through injuries and everything. So he came back. He's healthy, and they're just raving about him in Seahawks camp, saying how great he looks.
I'm great. I'm happy with that. That just in general, having Doug Baldwin, that's good. That's going to help him because Doug Baldwin doesn't have anyone to begin with, and that'll probably help the running game and Russell Wilson out. So that's exciting. Right. But I also want to see it to believe it.
I kind of think the Seahawks have a little bit of an underrated receiving core.
I do.
The receivers might not put up fancy points, but that's going to help Russell Wilson.
I've been saying this probably before the season started, before the preseason. Doug Baldwin's probably one of the most underrated.
Oh, absolutely, Doug Baldwin is. But I'm considering when you look past Doug Baldwin, going into the season, we didn't really think there was much there. Yeah. But Tyler Lockett, he wasn't the same player he was 2 years ago last year. So he's coming back. He's getting healthier. Yeah. And him and Russell have that deep ball connection going on. Yeah. And then you got Brandon Marshall, who they're just saying, oh my gosh, he's going to dominate in the red zone. He's back to being a healthy player. And then Jerron Brown even looked pretty good last night too. And then they got this guy, David Moore. I'm not saying to pick him up or anything, but I'm just saying Russell threw it to him a couple times, and he caught one between two defenders. It was a pretty crazy catch. So, if he's going to be making catches like that deep down the field, that can only help Russell Wilson out.
What's the probability of someone in our league picking him up right now?
Nothing.
Nothing.
But still, it helps Russell. Going back to T.Y. Hilton, he finished the year last year with 57 catches, 966 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
With an off quarterback, so that's obviously for T.Y. Hilton going to go up with Andrew Luck. But that said, as a wide receiver 3 and 4, if I can get that numbers from Josh Gordon, even though I'm predicting a little bit higher, I think he's going to break 1,000 yards. I'm for it for wide receiver 3 and 4. Obviously, wide receiver 1 and 2, not really, but wide receiver 3 and 4. I agree with Scott. He has probably valued his draft position a little bit too high, especially he doesn't have a full season of work. But I think a lot of people are basing off when he did play. Right. I think that's not fair. He hasn't played 5 years, but basing on what I see for wide receiver 3 and 4, I'm for that. If I can get that from a wide receiver 3 and 4, I'm happy.
Well, T.Y. Hilton, since we're on the subject, suffered a minor shoulder sprain.
What is up with preseason,
I believe it was Saturday.
Jesus.
Yeah. They say it's minor, say he'll be fine, but he probably won't be playing Monday night when they play their preseason game against the Ravens.
And when Jordan Wilkins is about to make his name for himself. Market!
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Wilkins does win the job, but I would more so expect Christine Michael to come out with the ones in the preseason game.
I'm expecting...
And then if the injuries continue to go into week 1 of the season, I would still say Christine Michael.
I don't think he's trash. He hasn't done anything in, the 4 teams he's been on. So I'm just actually shocked they actually gave me a compliment. This guy never gives me compliments. This guy actually said that I wouldn't be surprised. Wow, I'm actually touched.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. He's a good. I liked his upside, being a big back that can catch. You got him late. It doesn't cost you anything to get him. He's got a profile that I really like. And
he didn't know about this guy until I brought it up. So I want to point that out for everyone that's listening.
There wasn't anybody else on it.
By the way, we have people in Connecticut and Colorado listening, and Sweden and the UK. We got Sweden's in the UK. So Sweden's in the UK. I don't know, what is the
Swedes and Brits.
The Swedes and the Brits. Okay. Shout out to them. I said it first. Scott didn't know who Jordan Wilkins was, so I brought it up. So I just want to point that out.
Okay, if you hit on Jordan Wilkins, you need to flip him.
I'm going to flip him.
While the name is hot, you still got to flip him.
I'm going to flip him.
We'll see what he does with it.
Oh, man,
We'll notate it. I'm going to track this. I've been tracking it. Yeah. I heard the perfect comp. Your enemy, Corey, brought this up to me. He was listening to something on Sirius, and he told me, he goes, here's a perfect comp for Jordan Wilkins. And I think it is 100% spot on.
It's going to be something bad.
Zach Stacy.
Don't know who that is.
Zach Stacy? He was the Rams running back before Todd Gurley. He had that season. It was his rookie season with Jeff Fisher, and all of a sudden he's going, top 2-3 rounds in startups, and then they go draft Todd Gurley at 10th overall, and Zach Stacy just plummets in value.
Well, we'll see.
Did you just Google Zach Stacy?
Yeah, Google Zach Stacy to see who this guy was.
He's going to have to do some research tonight when we get home. Yeah, I can't remember. We played with Zach Stacy. It was like 2014. It was 2014.
We'll see. Corey can very well be right, but
well, it isn't Corey's. It isn't Corey's take. It's Rotoballers.
Just from my
hashtag Rollerballers.
Just from when I first saw
Sirius XM.
Jordan Wilkins, just the way he played, and he could be that 3-down back. So we'll see. Obviously, time's the biggest factor. We'll see. We'll see if he gets the job. See how he does Monday night. But anyways, going on to the news. So let's talk about the Bills. Okay, let's talk about the Bills. The trashy receiving core, trashy offensive line. I'm a LaShawn McCoy owner. That scares me, but I have to deal with it. But let's talk about A.J. McCarron. Man. Okay,
that Browns bottled LaShawn McCoy up. It was bad. But that's how I expected the Bills' offense to look this year.
No, it's amazing though. But yeah, well, we'll see. I think it'll be a lot of spread type running out of the shotgun formation, give him some sort of time to make some moves. But let's talk about A.J. McCarron. I feel so bad for the guy, man. He finally has a chance to actually start. Might be that week 1 quarterback, and he gets a hairline fracture in his collarbone. He's going to be on IR most likely, opening the gates for Josh Allen to be the week 1 starter.
And Nathan Peterman will be the week 1 starter.
Nathan Peterman will be the week 1 starter. Scott, man, I feel bad for AJ, but what's your thoughts on this?
I kind of wanted the Broncos to acquire him because he looked cheap, like really cheap. And he was. The Bills got him for nothing. And I thought the Broncos had some interest in him. Apparently not. And anything was an upgrade over Paxton Lynch. I think that's proven true over the first 2 weeks.
God, I can't believe the Cowboys wanted to trade up for that guy. Oh, my gosh.
I know. It's so bad.
Paxton Lynch is garbage.
But Chad Kelly's passed him. Chad Kelly's the number 2. And I did watch the game for Chad Kelly last night. And he looks the part, man. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the fans are really in Denver pushing for Chad Kelly to start over Case Keenum at this point. Like, it's getting there.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
It's getting to a almost Tebow Mania type level there in Denver. The coaching staff, John Elway, they're going to slow the roll on that. This is Case's team for 2018, no matter what. If he sustains an injury, then we'll see what we have in Chad Kelly. But, man, I tell you, he looks good. And I'm excited. I really hope. That's Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback. Imagine that storyline of Mr. Irrelevant, Jim Kelly's nephew.
The bloodline, man.
I know.
Bloodline.
It'd be pretty crazy if he actually does hit.
That'll be cool. That'll be a nice story. That's like a movie type moment right there.
It really is. It'd be an awesome story, and
especially if he does something and becomes really good. That's better than Tom Brady. Let's say, can you imagine let's say
Tom Brady fell in the draft because he's Tom Brady. Chad Kelly fell in the draft because off the field DUIs and different things like that.
Okay, well, that'll be exciting. But going back to the Bills, obviously, I think Josh Gordon to me is going to be that starter. How does he affect his fantasy outlook on that? I wasn't high on Josh Allen to begin with, but he's playing pretty decent. He still has accuracy issues, as I said he would. But and also Jalen Ramsey says you're trash. Just want to point that out, Josh Allen.
Well, we'll find out.
I
do think no matter what, at some point during the season, it just seems inevitable that Josh Allen is going to start. I do think that they'll probably try to do a Nathan Peterman week 1 start and not save Josh Allen a little bit, but
do you think they're going to try to maybe?
It wouldn't surprise me if he does play week 1.
There's got to be some quarterbacks out there that's probably want to try to free agency, try to sign or anything like that. No.
Who? Oh, speaking of quarterbacks free agency, we can touch on this. John Elway came out and said Colin Kaepernick had his chance to be a Denver Bronco, and he turned us.
I got a nice rant about Colin Kaepernick. We're talking about that little boy because I don't want to get all political right now. Okay, I want to get a little bit political later, but we'll talk about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, Elway's facing a lot of backlash on that.
No, I'm for it. I'll talk about that later. Let's talk about that later. Let's go back to the Bills. So you think Nathan Peterman's going to be the starter?
I think Nathan Peterman will be the week 1 starter just because typically coaches want to save young quarterbacks. They don't want to play them early. And, it gives you a chance to see what you have with Nathan Peterman. Maybe you could showcase him a little bit for a trade in the offseason, something along those lines.
They got to do something, man. They got to help my boy.
I mean, they liked Nathan Peterman enough to, as a playoff team, bench Tyrod Taylor and play Nathan Peterman.
Yeah.
I mean, that speaks to me a little bit, so I do think Nathan Peterman will be the Week 1 starter. And I thought he looked good enough in the first preseason game. I'm surprised he didn't start the second one. Really.
All right.
Maybe they just want to see what they had in A.J. McCarron, and maybe Josh Allen was going to start Week 3, and they were going to look at all 3 starts or whatever. But I expect Nathan Peterman Week 1 starter.
All right.
But 55% Nathan Peterman, 45%
so he's really
Josh Allen.
He's not really sure.
It's a shaky thing.
He's not really sure.
I'm just telling you what I'm expecting here.
Well, they need to do something.
Peterman moved the offense pretty well against Carolina's defense. So
okay, so
A.J. McCarron couldn't do nothing against the Browns, and they're the Browns. So, I expect their defense to come around, but they're still the Browns.
The Browns. Anyways.
How about the Browns playing without the stripe on their helmet? What do you think of that?
I like it. I kind of like it.
I kind of like it better, too.
By the way, I like the Titans unis, too. You seen the Titans unis?
Yeah.
Dude, those Titans unis are sick.
I know. I was talking to my brother at the Fancy Ogre, Josh Euler. And,
Fancy Ogre.
Yep. And I was telling him, I was like, man, I really like those Tennessee Titans uniforms despite my what the.
I know. If you don't know what we're talking about, go back to our YouTube channel. Earlier episodes, probably a couple months back. But
that was only my what the because I didn't have any other topics to go on. I just took it.
But those unis are sick. And speaking of the Titans, man, I just want to say the whole AFC South is going to be fun to watch.
I've been saying it for weeks. I don't know how you can circle and automatically put the Jaguars in because this
Titans were moving the ball.
Mariota, yep.
They actually gave Derrick Henry some catching opportunities, so that's exciting for a fantasy.
The Titans with the Texans with Deshaun Watson and J.J. Watt coming back in that defense. And they add Tyrann Mathieu to
Andrew Luck coming back,
and Andrew Luck's the best quarterback in the division. He's supposed to be the next coming of John Elway.
And the coolest Twitter name I've ever seen, Captain Andrew Luck.
You came across that? How long ago? When'd you find it?
I found that like 3 weeks ago. I was like, what is this?
I've been following that for over a year.
Oh, I was like, wow.
It was very quiet last year.
I know, because it's like, I was like, is this like some fan? I'm like, wait a minute. This is actually Andrew Luck.
It's like putting your Abraham Lincoln's little notebook into a football player.
Yeah, as a photo.
It was really cool.
But that's exciting to watch AFC South. I can't wait for that to happen. But let's go up to another injury news. It's going to boost Peyton Barber, my boy Ronald Jones. Thanks a lot for. I'll try to have you back, Ronald. Try to have you back, man. And you're going to do this to me? Anyway, so Charles Sims, injured. Looks like it's a pretty bad one too. It hasn't been officially announced, but
yeah. I from what I was reading and what I was seeing, I was expecting an ACL to come out on that one.
Yeah, I mean, just the way that injury is. So Charles Sims most likely out. I'm expecting big boost in the catches in Peyton Barber, and I think Jarquez Rogers was that fill-in catching back anyways to begin with. That's something to keep on. Peyton Barber's draft value is the more he starts in preseason, the more and more it's going to go up. He's going to probably get up into that.
He's absolutely the week 1 starter at this point. It's going to have to be a mid-season shift, an injury to Peyton Barber, or Ronald Jones gets it from a playbook perspective and blocking and catching.
Well,
he
has been blocking really well. Just the other things he hasn't been doing well.
He's been dropping passes. His yards per carry. He's not really doing it on the ground either.
It kind of buns me out, but we'll see.
Even Jamal Charles, who this is his player comp, Jamal Charles had to be worked in later towards the season. He was never the week 1.
So
it was Thomas Jones. You still have a little bit.
Thomas
Jones was the bell cow, and then Jamal Charles kind of got worked in, but he did a lot in the return game too. So I don't know if they're using Ronald Jones there. I haven't noticed.
I mean, I didn't watch. All I know, I just saw his abysmal numbers. But anyways, back to Peyton Barber. Obviously, a big boost to him. I think he's probably going to go up to the 5th to 6th round now in most redraft leagues. He's that. Especially in my draft 2 weeks ago, I got him in the 17th round out of 17 rounds. That's not going to be like that forever.
Nope.
I mean, it's going to go.
Well, Ronald Jones is going in like the 5th round.
Yeah.
He's going really high.
Especially in redrafts, guys. Look, a lot of people, we'll talk about a little bit later in my draft do's and don'ts, but a lot of people like to try to get the running backs, which I don't think you don't have to, depending on what your position is. We'll talk about that later, but to me, he's a draft steal in the 6th or 7th round. But that's something you need to know. And also for Ezekiel Elliott owners, I'm a Cowboys fan. I just want to bring this out to you guys. Zach Martin, our all-pro offensive lineman, injured his knee. It doesn't look good from my perspective. It looks like an ACL-type injury. That's something to keep in mind of. We all saw what happened when Tyrone Smith was out in that abysmal offensive line. Zach Prescott did not get any time. Ezekiel Elliott could not get any holes open. So Zach Marcus is a big key to that offensive line. Something to keep an eye on. I mean, obviously, it's not going to affect Zeke's stock, but I'm just saying that's something to keep an eye on in terms of getting that yardage and everything like that. Scott, anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, losing Zach Martin, I mean, that offensive line is the strength of that team. So if we lose Zach Martin there, I don't think it's going to completely change them as an offense. You know, they won't be able to run the ball now. But it is a big hit, a big,
something I do want
big loss if they were to lose him for the season.
Something I do want to point out with anyone that's a Ezekiel Elliott owner, I keep hearing lots of news that they're going to put Zeke in the passing game. They're going to try to get him the ball as much as he can. I'm expecting Le'Veon Bell-type touches numbers, like 400 plus. So that's exciting for just a pure volume. But as I said, that offensive line is the key. That's the reason why the Cowboys were anything good, is that offensive line. So keep in mind about that. So anything else you want to mention about players before we go into the next segment?
Yeah, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, the one thing he was really, truly missing from his game was the receiving numbers, where he gets his fantasy production as being just an elite rusher between tackles and elite touchdown scorer. So if he's able to add the, Le'Veon Bell-type receiving numbers, Todd Gurley-type receiving numbers that he got last year, that really could be a huge boost to him to be the number one.
He's not going to get to the Le'Veon Bell.
You just said he was going to get Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell touches like 400 plus.
Okay.
He's not going to run wide receiver routes like Le'Veon Bell does. He's not that type of athlete. But he's going to get, I'm guessing, 30 to 40 catches in this season.
Okay, well, he's been getting 30 or 40 catches. Can he go up to 50 to 60 catches?
No,
that's the thing.
I don't think so. We'll see. Well, obviously, the receivers of the Cowboys suck, so that wouldn't surprise me.
That's why I was thinking he could, because what Todd Gurley had 64 last year, I was thinking he could get to around that 55-60 window. Even that would be just a huge.
How many catches did Zeke have? But also Zeke was gone for 6 games too. So let's base off his.
I was going to go to his rookie season.
Rookie season.
The last time he played the whole season.
Look that up. So
he had 40 receptions in his rookie year.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, he's getting projected. He had 32 receptions his rookie year. Mm-hmm. So if he's able to even just add 20 to that, which I don't think is outlandish, if they're going to use him more in that passing game, and they have the loss at receiver that they have. He had 26 last year in 10 games, so he had 6 more. He probably gets close to 40. So if he's able to get to that 50 number, that'd be huge.
Probably be the consensus number 1, probably. We'll see. But anyways, something I want to talk about, guys. If you guys haven't watched it, you guys got to watch it. You can find it probably on anything social media. But Minnesota game, the Jacksonville Jaguars game, blatant perfect form tackle on the quarterback. And it got dinged for pass interference. What are you doing, NFL? What are you doing? Guys can't hit now? These guys have been playing football the whole life. They've been teach how to hit like that.
He got flagged for putting his weight on
it. You tell me, how is the guy supposed to tackle?
Kessler's small, man.
That is ridiculous. I hope Roger Goodell's in his office like, what the F is going on? We need to fix this. I hope it doesn't translate in the regular season. I just hope this is his preseason. We're trying to understand the rules, but that was blatantly absurd. Unbelievable. This guy was a perfect form tackle, and we're seeing this a lot now with the helmet rule. Scott, anything you want to mention about this? The penalties in the NFL in the last 2 weeks?
I'm trying to take it with a grain of salt because they did come out and say, "Hey, look, we're going to be throwing a flag. If it's close, we're throwing a flag. If we think there might be something there, we're throwing the flag." And then they're going to go evaluate with the refs and try to work it out. What's the flag? What's not a flag? What should we call? And they're trying to use it as a teaching moment for these refs because it's so weird. The rule is weird. It's something that we're not used to. The players aren't used to. The refs aren't used to. Us fans aren't used to. So there's going to be
Was that call absurd?
A learning curve.
Was that call absurd?
Yeah, it was absolutely absurd.
Ridiculous.
It was stupid. But you know what? It's preseason. The game don't matter. The refs are just trying to figure out what the heck the competition committee wants in this rule. That's all the refs are trying to do.
I wouldn't want to be a referee in the NFL. All the changing rules up. It's being. I bet you Ed Hockley's like, thank you, I retired. Oh, I don't deal with this crap no more. Thank you. But the penalties are just so. They're making the game like just trash right now. It's just ridiculous. It's making the game not fun. And football is like the funnest sport.
Well, you
ever.
know what? You know what? Maybe this is going to make fantasy so much more fun. Because if they're going to be hitting like this, guess what? They'll get more first downs, which is going to lead to scoring, which is going to lead to more fantasy numbers.
Your defense is going to probably suck.
Like, we could legit... There's a bear in my yard.
Yeah, that's a huge dog. Holy crap. Like, I thought I saw Sasquatch for a moment. I was like, Jesus.
But I do think they're all just trying to figure this rule out. And I do think that this rule is going to lead to more scoring, which we'll probably see some elite numbers in the NFL that we've never
that's
seen
awesome,
before.
But just from a football perspective, come on, man. The defense, being a defender on the NFL defense is hard enough. You're making it harder on them. And then going back to the helmet rule, you have people that have been playing football to keep the helmet down to protect themselves, and then they're getting dinged for that. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
If anything, from what I've seen in this rule, they need to call it more on the offensive players than they are currently doing. But
that might affect fantasy numbers too, because you got running backs who are taught their whole lives to lead with the helmet, and now they're going to get dinged on it now, so it's going to affect fantasy numbers.
Like Isaiah Crowell's touchdown in Week 1. Yeah. I mean, he literally used his helmet like a battering ram against 3 defenders, scored a touchdown, and they didn't call it on him. And I'm like, well, that's worse than half these defensive calls, but we're just so used to calling all these penalties one way against the defense. One last
injury note, not a big deal, but I just wanted something to point out. Saquads did stretch his hamstring out. Obviously, hamstring. You know how hamstrings are. They never heal, but I think he's going to be fine Week 1. But just something to keep an eye on.
He probably won't play again preseason, but that's fine. They're already pretty much treating him like a veteran, giving him days of rest and things like that.
Yeah, that means
they're going
to use him. They're going to use him.
The whole New York Giants, the whole staff, everybody up there is just so excited to see what this guy can do.
They're going to workhorse him to the ground. They're going to ride him to the ground. That's exciting. That is exciting. All right, let's talk about what Scott mentioned. I'm about to get political. I'm ready to get political. Let's get political.
Colin Kaepernick.
I saw Bud's watching. Tell Anthony to watch this because he's going to like this. All right, so Scott, as you said, John Elway mentioned that he gave Colin Kaepernick a contract. He had his shot.
He gave him an offer, and he has a chance to be here, and he turned him down. That's what he said. Now, what Elway did is he left it open because earlier in the week he said that they're looking for veteran quarterbacks, and he didn't indicate when that offer was. That offer wasn't this week. This is going back to 2016, the year after the Super Bowl. Peyton retires. They didn't get Osweiler, so he was looking to trade for Colin Kaepernick, and they had a deal worked out. The 49ers and Broncos had the deal worked out. Elway said, if Colin Kaepernick agrees to a lowered payment contract, we'll make the deal happen. He flew Colin Kaepernick into Denver. Everybody met. The GM, John Elway, I believe Gary Kubiak was there, the head coach. And they had a meeting. He wouldn't take the pay cut to join Denver. And then this is all before the kneeling of the anthem. Now, everybody's up in arms. They're saying, okay, Colin turned it down, but so did Brock Osweiler when he left at Houston. But then you bring Brock Osweiler back a year and a half later. Why are we not interested in Colin Kaepernick now? And I will say the one difference between the two situations is Osweiler spent 4 years in Denver before leaving. There's familiarity. He had been there. He knew Elway. He's friends with Elway's son. They went to the same college. So there's certain ties, certain relationships that were already built there, whereas Colin Kaepernick turned him down outright as an outcast from the team, not part of the team. So that is the one difference between the two of them. So I don't believe that they're the same. I don't believe that they should be looked at and used for the same argument. However, Colin Kaepernick, I mean, at that point in time, when the 49ers and Broncos were ready to make that trade, the 49ers were done with you, Colin Kaepernick. This was a Super Bowl winning team. Like, you could come in and play on a Super Bowl contending team, where the 49ers, They weren't very good. They were in a head coaching change, and you decide to stay there because they had more guaranteed money in your contract. That just doesn't seem very smart to me, because you come to Denver, you extend your career. Sure, you lose, $7 million or so in guaranteed money, but you extend it out and make more money throughout the duration of your career than you ultimately did in San Francisco. But go on, get to the political side of this. I looked at it from the football side.
I'm going to get to the political side. The football side, okay. I'm tired about this Colin Kaepernick talk, in my opinion, okay? This man has the audacity to sue the NFL for colluding against him for not getting a contract when, one, because this is before he still had offered with Broncos, and then Seattle Seahawks wanted to sign him, but he didn't want to continue. He wanted continuous protesting, which is fine.
Well, the Seattle Seahawks thing is they were bringing him in to be a backup, right?
Yeah.
Backup quarterback is a little bit different than being a starting quarterback.
I agree.
Colin Kaepernick was a starting quarterback. They said he's a starting quarterback. We're not going to bring him in to put behind Russell.
In this era of the NFL, if Dez Bryant can't find a job with his off-the-field crazy antics...
We didn't talk about his meeting with the Browns.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that later. How do you expect a team to sign Colin Kaepernick with all the not adversity, but it's all the publicity he's going to get? Remember Tim Tebow? When Tim Tebow come, all the cameras come. No organization wants that. And then on top of that, one of his biggest supporters was the owner for the Ravens. I forget his name. I don't know his name. You might have to look that up for me. But the owners of the Ravens and Ray Lewis were all for Colin to come to Ravens, to sign with the Ravens. And what does Colin do? He freaking compares the owner of the Ravens and Ray Lewis to the white characters, the white slave characters of Django. Which is, you're calling the people that supported you white slave owners.
Also, the Miami Dolphins were interested in bringing him in, but he had previous pictures of him doing interviews with Fidel Castro.
Yeah, Fidel Castro.
Fidel Castro T-shirt going to Miami. And then, that ain't gonna work.
And then he had something with like ducks on his socks or something like
pigs. He had pigs. Cops
so
for
like,
pigs.
How are you going to sue the NFL when your actions aren't helping you at all? I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. It's so absurd, in my opinion. The reason why Colin Kaepernick isn't signed is not because of his protesting, it's because of his actions, okay? You can protest all you want, but wearing all the Fidel Castro shirt, then calling owners and Ray Lewis, who's a Hall of Fame linebacker, regardless of what you feel about him, a white slave owner, come on, man. Come on. That's a what, though, right there.
Another bit of the problem is if Aaron Rodgers had done everything Colin Kaepernick had done, he's still employed. Yeah, he's still with the team. Colin Kaepernick isn't good enough.
Skill.
Yeah, he's not good enough to be putting up with all that side BS that he gives you. I mean, it's too much of a headache. It's too much of a headache. You're going to get backlash from your fan base. You're going to get backlash from the media.
And speaking of fan base,
it's not worth it.
When he was playing at the 49ers, he turned a home field advantage into home disadvantage. The home fans were booing Colin. They were booing him. They did not like him, so he took the whole organization.
And he took that team to the Super Bowl.
And he took that team to the Super Bowl, too. My gosh, I'm just Colin, man. You could sign if you want to. It's just not helping yourself. But Colin, to me, he's not going to play again in the NFL. I just don't see it happening unless a major injury happens and the team wants to deal with that.
He's never playing in the NFL. He hung himself.
Yeah.
He is never going to play in the NFL.
It's a shame. It's a shame because he had some
He's plenty good enough to be on the team. He's plenty good enough to play. But when you look at his off-the-field stuff, when you look at what problems he's going to bring to the locker room, what image it's going to bring to the team, the backlash you get from the media and the fans, it's never going to happen. He's done in the NFL.
Just can't do that. You can't bash. Because very few teams were wanted to sign him anyways, and the one team that really was trying to get to him team, you compare them to that's just really bad. But anyways, that is for my politicalness. This is not a political podcast. All right, let's talk about the Dez. We didn't talk about Dez. All right, Brown said they're no longer pursuing Dez. It's not their top burner, top choice, which doesn't surprise me. I'm going to ask you this question before you thought. Okay. Do you think Josh Gordon's whatever he's doing meditating, doing whatever he's doing, try to get better, he's hearing all these news of Dez Bryant that he kind of like made it quicker, made it a little bit quicker.
Yeah,
we'll see.
He goes, well, if they sign Dez, that's one more for me to compete. And Dez is Dez, and they're likely going to put a lot of money in his contract. Therefore, he's going to be on the team regardless. And what did we say a couple weeks ago? Who does Dez most similarly play to on the Browns? It's going to be he plays like a Josh Gordon. Not quite as fast or elite of an athlete.
Josh Gordon's a better
but he
route
still
runner,
plays kind of that same
Dez
same
can't
position.
run routes anymore.
Right.
We'll talk about Dez about that
But
later.
I think another key thing here, so Josh Gordon comes back, but Rashard Higgins has looked really good for the Browns. As their number 2 opposite of Jarvis, he's catching everything, he's getting targets, he's getting open, he's separating. Like, he's looked really good. So I don't really feel like the need, and they got Antonio Callaway too, who they're really high on. So what's the need in bringing Dez Bryant in? Why do we need to bring Dez Bryant
always felt
as the Brown?
They were thinking about signing Dez to fill that Josh Gordon because they were uncertain about Josh Gordon. And 2, if they were to sign Dez, it will be something hesitant on both Josh Gordon and Antonio Callaway's off-the-field issues. But I agree. I don't think Dez Bryant's going to be on the team this season. I said this before to my Cowboys fans that I think Dez needs to take the season off. If
he's not on a team this season, his career's over.
No,
There's no way. There's no way.
Listen, I think he needs to take the break off. He needs to improve on his conditioning, improve on his route running, get a route runner coach, work hard this whole season, and come back and prove yourself the following season. Because his problem right now is his route running. Because
you're 30 years old. You are who you are. You're not going to reinvent yourself at 30 years old.
Why not? Why not?
It just doesn't happen.
And
Dez doesn't have the mentality to do it.
You said the same to Josh Gordon with his issues, and I mean, obviously it's still early, and he hasn't.
It's 4 years and hasn't proved me wrong.
But people can change. So I mean,
he can change lifestyle, but he's as a player. I mean, you are who you are. When you're 30 years old, you've proven you are who you are, and that's who Dez is going to be throughout the rest of his career.
We'll see. I just think.
Is he Larry Fitzgerald maturity off the field?
No.
And he's the only player I've ever seen reinvent himself at wide receiver.
So we'll see. We'll see. Obviously, I think he needs to prove his route running. Obviously, if you just look at, as I said, he compares to Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon is bigger. He's stronger, faster, way better route runner. So obviously, no room to compete on that roster. But as of right now, I think Dez not going to sign anywhere. So.
Dez will, if his career's not over, he's going to play somewhere this year. If he don't play anywhere this year, his career's over.
What do you think's if he does play somewhere?
He's going to play excuse me. He'll play on the Jets. You do
Whoa!
That.
Oh my gosh!
He'll go to the Jets.
This is why we have
the
explicit. This is why we have the explicit on all our iTunes and Podbeans. I can't believe you just said the F word to me.
Well, you make me mad.
I didn't do anything. I was asking a question. Wow, you have anger issues, bud. You got to work on that, man.
If Dez does not play this year, Dez is done.
Okay, he's done. Jesus. All right. Anything you want to say about players before we go into our draft preparations, draft do's and don'ts, talking about drafting upcoming week?
Steelers, James Conner looks fantastic. He could be the Le'Veon Bell light replacement for next year when Le'Veon leaves the Steelers, because ultimately
that's going to happen.
That's what it looks like is going to happen. It's the most likely scenario. And James Conner has shown that he looks like he could probably hold his own and take over that role if needed in that offense. Plus, he's a heck of a lot cheaper, and they'll have money to go spend elsewhere.
Also, good handcuff, too, if you have a Le'Veon Bell as your running back. We'll talk about that later.
Right. Taywan Taylor for the Titans. He's been running with the ones. He showed out a little bit last night, 94 yards and on 3 or 4 catches and a touchdown. He is a late-round guy. Hey, take a stab at him if you need some receiver help if you go running back early in your draft and you need some receiver help later. He's a nice guy with upside there to take.
What about Mike Williams? He had a 25-yard Moss touchdown.
Mike Williams didn't play with Phillip Rivers, therefore I don't care.
Oh, okay.
But that's what Mike Williams brings to the table. That's what he did in college. That's what I expect him to do to translate in the NFL. I want to see if he can expand his game outside of, hey, throw a jump ball. I'll get it.
Okay.
If he can't really expand his game outside of that, then he's limited limited to more of a Dez Bryant type career than.
We forgot to mention Delaney Walker. He did injure himself too.
He got injured. I haven't read anything about it being serious.
That's good because Titans Delaney Walker was probably get him very late, and he's very has a nice fantasy value. But Before we go into our draft do's and don'ts, I just wanted to, first off, is there anything else you want to say about players or anything? Is that it? I'm sorry to interrupt.
I think I touched on all the helmets I laid out up here.
Okay, cool.
That's all I remember myself.
So, everyone knows probably, we're from Jacksonville, right? So, Jalen Ramsey got suspended because of media concerns for the week. So, he went an interview with GQ, completely.
Well, the interview was done before he got suspended.
Okay.
There is some belief that he got suspended because of the GQ interview, not because of the incidents going on locally.
I did not know that. I thought that was... Anyways, he goes and criticizes or critiques NFL quarterbacks. So, Scott, what do you think about it?
It's trash.
It's trash.
No, I think it's awesome. He's authentic. He's an authentic person. He's going to tell you what he thinks all the time. I think the funny thing was about Matthew Stafford, where he's like...
He does what he does. He does what he does.
He's decent. He does what he has to do. And, well, they asked Golden Tate about it. And Golden Tate goes, I don't know. I didn't remember playing him. What happened in that game? Lions won, and Jalen Ramsey was crying on the bench. And Golden Tate was like, oh. I thought that was awesome. So,
well, just look at the names that he said.
But you know what? From Jalen Ramsey's perspective, and just thinking about it, if you're a quarterback, he calls you trash. You're like, all right, I'm gonna go. You shut him up. I'm gonna show him I ain't trash. So what are you gonna do? I'm gonna throw touchdowns on Jalen Ramsey. I'm gonna throw at Jalen Ramsey. Well, you know what? I mean, Jalen Ramsey will get more balls thrown to him. Maybe he'll get more interceptions. Maybe that's part of the whole thought process in.
We'll see. So the names he did. Eli said he's trash. Big Ben said he's all right, average. Joe Flacco straight up blatant says he sucks. Sucks like twice. So these big names, like look at the names. You got Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl champion Joe Flacco once. He said
something about Luck too. He said Luck wasn't very good, but Luck torched him both times he played him. So.
Yeah. Eli, 2-time Super Bowl MVP, 2-time Super Bowl champ. Big Ben, 2-time Super Bowl champ. These aren't like people that are just bench warmers. These are probably could be Hall of Fame people. I mean,
what do you say about Tom Brady?
He said he was good. He said it was good. Tom Brady was good. So we all know he's not crazy because Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. But as I said in the opening, I love it. I love this swag. I just hope it doesn't backfire like we've seen with Richard Sherman, seen with Patrick Peterson. Every time, that position, it's so hard to attain such a long level of performance, being like the top-notch cornerback. There's eventually going to be a cliff, and it happens really quickly. So I hope that defense stays good. And a part of the reason why that defense is so successful is that front seven. It's a lot easier.
And the secondary. I mean, they got two of the probably top 5 cornerbacks in the league.
But it's a lot easier to cover someone for 3 seconds than just for 5 seconds, 6 seconds. Because that's
what made Denver's defense so elite is they didn't have to cover for so long either.
Yeah. So like with Jalen's rookie season, he was good, but he wasn't Jalen as he was like the second year. I mean, it's that defensive line helps a lot. I'm not saying Jalen's a stud. He's the best cornerback probably right now. I'm just saying that defense is that front seven does help a lot. But I love it. I love the swag. He's bringing swag back in Jacksonville. We haven't had this much media attention in Jacksonville in such a long time.
I don't think in their entire career have they
Shannon
ever had this.
Sharp and Skip Bayless were talking about us. They were like, "Oh, they loved it."
You got media members picking you to go to the Super Bowl.
I know, it's insane. You got Tony Romo picking Super Bowl. The Jags have been so on the map lately, and I love it. I just hope they don't disappoint us. Okay?
Do they parlay that into season tickets from you?
No. I mean, I don't have Sunday. I don't have Sundays off enough to get it, but I might eventually buy season tickets. But we'll see.
You know, I've been saying Tom Brady is my favorite player I've ever. He's my favorite player. He's the one that I was connected to growing up. He became my favorite player. I am a Broncos fan, but Tom Brady is my favorite player. Tom Brady, week 2, plays here in Jacksonville. I've never seen him play live, and it's something that I really.
Didn't you have tickets already?
No. I think back on it, and I'm thinking about it, and I go, if I don't take this opportunity, if I miss his career, and I never see him play live, not once, I'm going to regret it down the road.
Go get it, yeah, go for it.
$160 in the nosebleeds, and I'm just like, I don't know.
No, I should have bought tickets a long time ago. Try to maybe scalp them, but
it doesn't matter. I would have to have bought season tickets because they never sold them as single game tickets. So with that, I mean, the ticket prices are just so high on the secondary market that I don't know. We'll see. But is there a player that you let's rewind the clock. Is there a player that you wish you could go back in time and watch them play live? Troy Aikman.
I would love to watch Tony Romo play before his back injuries, when it was like Tony Romo.
You never watched Romo play?
Not live.
Wow.
I would love to see Barry Sanders play. If I had the opportunity to ever see Barry Sanders play, if I was born in the 70s and 80s, watching him play, that would be fun. But really, Tom Brady was, as I said, Tom Brady's my favorite player too. And just watching him transcend what he's doing at 41. And everyone says, all the haters saying he's going to fall off the cliff at the start of week 1. I don't think so. I think he's conditioned himself. He has a mentality that you don't see often in the quarterback position. And I wouldn't be surprised if they go to the AFC Championship, possibly Super Bowl again. I see that happening.
Speaking of the Patriots, that backfield, James White looked really good.
Yeah. And Rex Burke has a slight tear in his knee, so that's something else you got to keep aware about.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you have a slight tear in your knee like that, I expect throughout the duration of the season at some point you're just going to tear the rest of it all the way through. So,
and think about it, guys.
I'm not in on Burkhead for this season, but James White looks like as the pass catching back
especially the first 4 weeks with Julian Edelman gone, because there's got to be targets going to go. So James White.
Yeah, I think the whole community has been sleeping on James White, and he could really be a difference maker for a championship running.
Do you guys remember what he did in the Super Bowl?
13 receptions.
Sheesh.
He almost single-handedly won that game for the Patriots.
Oh, I mean, Julian Edelman had that freakish circus catch.
But
I mean, yeah, in a PPR draft, right? You can probably get him. He probably even goes undrafted, maybe, but you probably get him late round. Talking about 14th, 15th, 16th round. So absolutely go for him, which leads us perfectly into our drafting. This is the week normally, week 3, week 4.
Between week 2, week 3.
Is when you do your redraft leagues. Our redraft league with FOTP, Flags on the Play, by the way, scheduled for last Sunday before the season. Check that out. We'll be broadcasting live, probably from the man cave, because it's a fantasy football draft. Therefore, they should come us to the fantasy football show. Scott, first of all, give me your couple notes, tips when you do redraft leagues. Like, what do you do? Give me some. Tips.
When I go into the draft, I try not to have a strategy. When you have a strategy and you're planning on this player here, this player there, and then you get to it, or even this position there, going by positions in each round, you force your hand a little bit and you lose yourself on some elite players that could fall down. And you try to prepare yourself doing mock drafts, and you try to prepare for what's going to happen, and then everything changes the very first round. So what I try to do is when I go into them, I say, I'm not going to have a plan. Especially in the early rounds, I'm going to see what comes available. What do I want? I would love to go running back, but if I pick and all the running backs go, and I'm either choosing between the first or second receiver and the 9th running back, well, I'm going to choose a receiver because that's where the value is.
That's a perfect opening. I'm sorry, Go ahead.
So at that point, instead of taking Melvin Gordon, Kareem Hunt at 9, give me Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham, because they're an elite player. Now, I like to go running back early, but sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. Therefore, you'll have to swing it the other direction. But whatever you go early, basically there's 2 positions you need to hit hard, wide receiver and running back. So if you go wide receiver early, you got to hit running back real hard in the middle rounds. If you hit running back early, then you got to hit wide receivers really hard in the middle rounds. And then monitor quarterback and tight end. Usually I try to wait really late. But if they start sliding and, Drew Brees and Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers are available in like the 5th, 6th round and it's good value there, go ahead and grab one of the elite guys. Now, if you're looking at like a Matt Ryan there, pass.
The difference between the QB1 and like the QB
it's small.
10, it's like 70
small,
points. It's not
but
worth it.
It just depends on if you can get an elite guy.
Let's say, the only person I would consider going high on is Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not going 3rd round on Aaron Rodgers.
Obviously, but yeah, I'm talking about like
you'll have to fall like to the 5th or 6th round, which is where you could potentially get a Drew Brees.
You brought some good points. There's all this stigma.
Same thing at tight end because you could get a tight end in the 5th round. You can get like Greg Olsen in the 5th or 6th, 7th round. And to me, if you can get him that late, he is going to be a top 5 tight end. And that's going to, there's only 5 or so tight ends.
It brings me to one of my tips. No players that have lots of value, but aren't have a high ADP. As I said, Greg Olsen. We mentioned Peyton Barber. You can get him late. So, and stuff like that. So Scott brings up a good point. There's always been this stigma. You got to go running back, right, in the first round, right? Well, that's not going to help you if you draft 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, right? Because look, you got the top 8. To me, there's 6, 7 players that can go consensus number 1. You got Zeke, you got Gurley, you got Bell, Antonio Brown could go, Saquon could go, David Johnson, Melvin Gordon. Really, I'm not either one of those guys. I'm not going to be upset and go, okay, you can have number 1 at. But after that, you're at the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. What are you going to do? Scott mentions it, right? Don't do the running back 9. Do best available. If that means Odell Beckham, DeAndre Hopkins, stuff like that, go for it. The running back stigma, to me, getting a running back in the first, second round, to me, I'm not. You don't have to. I mean, to me, get the best available. There's running backs that are deep that you can have in the 3rd, late 2nd, early 3rd, 4th rounds that you can get. So if you get that receiver, then get that running back or get another receiver. In my opinion, I always do best available. I try to get best available and then work on my way down deep in the drafts. Deep in the draft, you can get running backs that aren't valued as high, that has potential and stuff like that. So my first opinion is know your drafting position. Don't overreach running backs. Like, for example, Derrick Henry, even though I'm a Derrick Henry owner in my Dynasty League, he's going pretty high when you can probably get Deion Lewis later, way late in drafts. Don't reach for a running back because you need a running back. Get that receiver, get the best available tight end, or get the other receivers, and build from there. That's my only tips for you guys.
And I'd say take the risk on a guy. Like if Adrian Peterson coming off an ACL, you can get him in the 4th round because he's coming off an ACL.
Like I did that one year.
Take the risk.
Take the risk, obviously, yeah. Take the risk.
Last year, I'm going to show you a case where I took the risk and I lost out. Last year, I was picking 12th in a 12-team league. I won the league the year before. It was my 2nd in 2 years. So I'm back-to-back champs. I'm picking 12th. I start my team off with Ezekiel Elliott and Odell Beckham.
Nice, that's
I lost them both last year, but you know what? Picking 12, if I can start my team like that, let's do it. If I lose out because Odell Beckham and Ezekiel Elliott, Odell gets injured, Elliott gets his suspension, and that cost me.
Elliott fell because of the whole suspension thing. So,
but because I was able to, I'm going to take the risk on that. Like, if I could start my team with that and then build from there, I'm going to do it every time. Now, if they get injured, you can't predict injuries.
Yes.
You can't.
No one can predict injuries.
Elliott suspension, that was looming. I took that risk factor in when I drafted him. But still,
and you had him for 4 or 5 games.
I had him for 10. Yeah, it was 10 games. The problem is I lost Odell Beckham early, and that really hurt me at receiver. And then Elliott was kind of, I don't know, he didn't have his elite season. He had a good season, but it wasn't elite. No. And just ultimately select my team of those 2 elite players. Mm-hmm. But you don't win your league at the draft.
Yeah.
You have to play the waiver wire. You have to pick up players. You have to monitor. You have to pay attention when certain running backs get injured, and you can automatically get a every week running back to play in your flex. You have to monitor it, and you're not. Very rarely will you draft good enough to take the team that you drafted and go win your championship with it.
You usually got to do something, trades or anything like that.
Right.
Well, leads into our do's and don'ts. All right. So I'll start out from my first do. Lead off to Scott. My first do is draft a quarterback 10th, 11th, 12th. Don't go anything earlier. 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. That's where you can get a lot of great value quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan. You can get Dak Prescott probably around that area.
Well, quarterback's really deep this year, and 10th, 11th, 12th, honestly, you could probably wait till the 14th, 15th, 16th, and still get a Phillip Rivers.
Especially in most scoring, when the quarterbacks is 25 yards for 1 point, you can get pretty decent quarterback in late rounds.
Or stream the position. Just like I like
Absolutely.
to stream kickers in defense, you can stream quarterback.
So use those 8th and above rounds to get depth in your positions, like running backs and receivers and tight ends. Don't worry about that quarterback. Quarterbacks aren't going to win you leagues, win you games. It's going to be your running backs and receivers primarily to give you that over that hump. So my first do is don't draft a quarterback until 9th, 10th, and 11th. Up to the absolute earliest. You can do it later too if you want.
Well, I would argue, just on behalf of this quarterback thing, if there is a value, if Drew Brees is there in like the 8th round or 7th round, he drops a little bit because everybody else is fading quarterback, get the elite guy. It'll pay off.
I highly doubt Drew Brees in most leagues will go down in the 8th round. I think he'll probably be
It probably doesn't happen, but you have to be prepared because anything can happen in these drafts.
If it does happen, then you'd be stupid not to do that. You draft him.
Right. But you just have to monitor it. Mm-hmm. If you feel like there's a great value there with one of the elite quarterbacks, I'm not saying the Stafford or Matt Ryan. I'm saying an elite guy. The Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, those guys fall to a point where you're like, holy cow, how is he still available?
Tier 1 quarterbacks. Gotcha.
Right. And then go after him.
Scott, what's your first do?
Literally don't draft a kicker defense till the very last 2 rounds.
If you have to. Or you can stream them from the waiver wire.
If you draft in earlier, like if you're drafting this week or before, then I would say don't even draft them at all. Pick up extra running backs. But if you're drafting week 3, week 4, you're only 1 week or so away, then it doesn't. Just don't draft them until the very last round. Every year we try to project the number 1 defense, and every year we're wrong. We can never get it right.
Every year the number 1 defense has changed. There's never been a back-to-back number 1 defense ever. There's been a number 1 defense and a number 3 defense, but never been 1-1. The defense position, very interchangeable.
And then the difference between the number 1 defense and like the number 20 defense
20 points.
Over the duration of the season is like less than 2 points per game.
Okay.
So there's no point in spending the 8th round pick to get the Jaguars defense.
Yeah.
9th round pick to pick the Broncos defense.
When you can get the Patriots defense probably undrafted.
Yep.
Anyways, my second do is know your scoring and draft accordingly.
Absolutely.
If your scoring is a PPR, 1-point PPR, draft the receivers that get catches. Don't draft a receiver that's touchdown dependent and only gets 3 catches, 4 catches a game. Okay? Same with running backs. If a lot of leagues do points per attempts. So if that's the case, get a running back that gets a lot of attempts. Points per completion. Get a quarterback that throws a lot of passes, like a Phillip Rivers. So know your scoring in a draft accordingly.
Yep, absolutely. That's probably the single most thing that gets overlooked in fantasy is people just think scoring is kind of uniform. Every league is different. You have your standard leagues, but everybody's moving away from standard leagues now to PPR. Even our league, we have custom scoring. It's completely different than anything you'll see anywhere else. So absolutely know your scoring before you go in because that changes values. It changes how points are scored, so it changes values on certain players. But that's an area that you can take advantage of your league mates in if they're not, up with the scoring. I know for the longest time, I used to get a bunch of value because the ADP, and also know your ADP on whatever website you're drafting, because if it's Yahoo or ESPN,
totally different.
Everybody's got different, and the ADP, the rankings that they do, is going to affect the area in which the rest of your league is drafting guys. And I know I used to take advantage of it where they would be ranked in standard rankings, but we drafted PPR. So I used to be able to get PPR guys super late that were such great values. Now the big media guys, they've come around to PPR, so now they're doing that stuff and they're ranking PPR, so it's a little bit different now. But one of my things that I wanted to talk about that I forgot. Dang.
Leading into my third do.
To go through the third do, I forgot.
My third do is don't overlook stashing. Okay. I think I'm using this term rightly. Get that if you want to get that quarterback and receiver that on the same team, stash it. Do it. I'm all for that, especially if it's like a Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen, Phillip Rivers, Mike Williams. Stash. Get those double points. Do it. I'm all for that. You can get that can win games.
Oh, stacking.
Stacking. That's what I meant. Stacking. I'm sorry.
Yes,
sorry. My bad.
Love stacking.
My bad.
My favorite stack all time was Antonio Gates and Phillip Rivers.
All right. Stacking. Okay. Learn it. Do it. For it. Stacking can win games. All right? Do it.
Yep. Another thing, it's like insurance policy here. You draft Le'Veon Bell in the first round, make sure you get yourself James Conner. If you draft Ezekiel Elliott in the first round, monitor that situation, see who the backup is. I think it's Rod Smith. You believe it's Bo Scarborough. But make sure you get...
Well, Bo Scarborough has a bad hit now, so we don't know about that.
Yeah, they're called handcuffs. It's like an insurance policy for your team. I've seen championships won because the guy owned handcuffs to his injured running backs. So please, your 4th, 5th running backs that you own, get the handcuff to your stud. That's a must do. Even if you miss out on them in the draft, monitor it because likely what's going to happen is people are picking up waiver wire guys and they're going to drop the handcuff because, well, they're getting me 0 points a game. So I'm going to drop a handcuff and we'll pick up, whatever random guy goes off in week 1. So just monitor your handcuff and at least, make sure you try to get yourself your handcuff for your team.
That was my last do as well. As I said, just touch on it. Was handcuff.
I gotcha.
Especially if you have a running back that is prone to injury. LaShawn McCoy, pick up Chris Ivory. Derrick Henry, get Deion Lewis. Just always have that because especially in deep leagues, it's really hard to find a replacement for a running back. So help yourself out by getting that handcuff.
Right.
It's going to help you in the long run. Like, for example, when Matt Forte was playing for the Bears, right? And he was always that stud. But he had PPR stud, but he had that usage, so he had a chance to get injured. I always got that handcuff, whatever the handcuff was at the time. Just get your handcuffs, because most of the time these handcuffs are going to go undrafted. You can even get them in like the last round. But those are our dues, so...
Well, a league was won. In our league, I was pointing out a handcuff situation. The guy owned Giovanni Bernard. He traded away Kelvin Benjamin in his rookie year, so he's having a good year for Jeremy Hill. Giovanni Bernard gets hurt. Jeremy Hill, that was the year he goes off. A championship was won because of that.
Yeah. So handcuffs can win. So just to recap our dues, my dues were draft quarterback later rounds, know your scoring system and draft accordingly for it, stacking, not stashing, stacking, thanks God, stacking, and always get that handcuff in late rounds specifically for the running back position.
Right.
Don't do stacking. Stacking for the receivers,
handcuffing for the receivers.
Don't do
There's
it.
only certain ones that you could do. I can't think of any right off the top of my head. But there are certain ones where you could do a
handcuff primarily for the running back position, and
right. Going into the don'ts, the very first don't I need to tell you guys is when you're drafting and you see your starting lineup there with quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, defense, kicker. A lot of people initially, especially new people to this game, they want to fill their starters and then do their bench. Completely wrong. No. Just draft best player available. You'll get your starters later. There will be plenty of players available, especially at the quarterback position, kicker, defense. Even at the tight end position, if you miss out on one of the big names at a good value early in the draft, just hold off and wait and take a shot on a David Njoku or O.J. Howard or Cameron Brate. Those types of guys have good seasons.
That's a very good point because you win your leagues off your depth, not because you're starters. Because you always got to plan for injuries, right?
Right.
People get injured. Your depth is going to be the one that helps you out.
Right.
So, as I said, I kind of mentioned this off my before we did this was don't reach for a running back if you're not in that position like the later round in the draft,
right.
like first round. Get that best available player. Whether it's a receiver or tight end, depending on your league. Like if it's a tight end premium, obviously tight end's going to get a little bit more value. So don't reach for a running back. As I said, there's a lot of deep running backs that you could get some value for. They won't be RB1s, but they'll be pretty decent RB2s. So don't reach for a running back. Going into what Scott mentioned, I'm for streaming a kicker, but if you got to draft a kicker, draft the kicker in the very last round, whatever that is. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And don't draft 2 kickers. Don't draft 2 defenses.
One kicker.
Honestly, draft 1 if you need it, and then just stream it. If somebody else is doing better at kicker, don't be afraid to make the swap. Same thing on defenses. You have to monitor some of these defenses, and if the defense that you thought would be good isn't doing good, monitor it, pick somebody else up. But always honestly, the matchup is better than the defense. So if you can just play the Browns every week, that's before, maybe not so this year. If you can play the Bills every week, the Jets every week, play against rookie quarterbacks, do that instead of playing the Vikings defense every week when they're playing the Packers twice, or they're good offenses, and the Lions twice, which are good offenses. Don't be afraid to sit a good defense to play a mediocre defense because the mediocre defense has a good matchup. Streaming is almost better than just owning one defense and playing them all the way through.
I agree.
And you can stream streamable positions. I'm sorry to keep cutting you off.
It's okay.
Our kickers,
I like it. Keep going.
Stream your kickers, stream your defenses. You can stream at quarterback and tight end. Running back and receivers are the only ones where you're going to be where you want your studs every week. All those other positions you can stream and be effective at it, just playing the matchups.
Good. I like it. I like it. I like the enthusiasm. Yes. All right. You got a don't? Do you want to come on me and continue on my list?
Yeah, don't roster 2 defenses. Don't roster 2 kickers, and ideally don't roster 2 quarterbacks. You know, just stream. Streaming is fun. It keeps you in.
If you haven't learned anything from this episode, just stream. Just stream.
Draft your studs at receiver, running back, and stream the rest. And you'll be surprised at how good you can do playing like that.
Going into my next don't draft a lot of players on the same team. I see a list a lot from the newbies.
It depends.
It just depends. Honestly,
the 2014 Denver Broncos, Peyton Manning, 5,500 yards, 55 touchdowns. You could have played just about everybody on that team and been all right.
In most occasions, it doesn't work out. Usually if your receiver goes off, your running back's not going to go off. So I'm for a quarterback and a running back, or a quarterback and a receiver, but don't go quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, and stuff like that. Just don't do it. Because on the bye week, that's going to put you in a bind too. That means you got to cover more people in the bye week. Which leads me to another don't. Don't draft players with the same bye week.
Don't pay attention to the bye weeks.
To me, I'd like to pay attention to the bye week.
I don't pay attention to them because they don't matter. It's 1 week. If all your guys have the same bye week, oh well. Give up the week. Put your best lineup out there you can. And if you don't win, you don't win. But guess what? You have the guys for the rest of the season. I don't care about the bye weeks. I don't pay attention to the bye weeks unless I'm stuck between 2 players. I don't know who to pick, and I notice one of their bye weeks matches the bye week with somebody else. I'll go the other way. There's the only time I'm ever paying attention to bye weeks. I don't care about bye weeks.
It's fair enough.
And I feel very strongly about that.
He's strong about streaming, and he's strong about bye weeks. And lastly, as I mentioned before, unless that rare occasion where a top tier 1 guy comes down to this round, don't overreach for a quarterback. No. Quarterback's the position where you
Everybody thinks quarterback's the most important position in
football. Not in fantasy.
But not in fantasy.
Not in fantasy.
There are certain scoring formats where they do get pumped up, and therefore then they become important. But that goes back to know your scoring format.
Mm-hmm. And also, one thing that I do want to just mention, it's not like a big don't. It's not like going to kill you, but a lot of people have a tendency to draft their favorite players and everything like that on their team. And obviously in fantasy, you got to be, to me, I like to be neutral. I'm a Cowboys fan. Doesn't mean I'm going to try to overreach to get Prescott or overreach to get Cole Beasley, etc. Draft the players that are best available at the time according to the round you're in. Don't overreach for Dak Prescott because you're a Cowboys fan and you want to watch Cowboys games. Okay, in fantasy, try to stay neutral, draft the best player, etc.
I got a little bit. I agree to that sentiment, but to me, I like to win, and I like to play with players that I like. So,
players you like is different.
I'm not a fan of Ezekiel Elliott, so unless I'm getting great value, I'll try to go. I would rather go David Johnson or something like that.
Players you like is different. Right. If you can like players, but don't if you were
don't sell the farm to get your favorite player.
Like Dak Prescott, who has ADPs probably in the 9th, 10th round. Don't overreach him in the 6th round because he's my favorite quarterback on my favorite team. You know what I mean? So just draft smart and don't overreach players. Don't draft players on your favorite team unless it's in the right time to do it. All right?
Yeah. One thing I just want to point out, last year I was doing a draft and I was getting a quarterback, and Dak Prescott was the guy I wanted. I wanted Dak Prescott. I'm the 13th round. I'm really late. He goes 2 picks before me. So then I feel bummed out, and I was like, well, I'm here. I'm at the point where I need a quarterback, kicker, and defense. So I'll take Carson Wentz. And it worked out for me. For the weeks that he was playing, he was pretty much quarterback 1 on the season. That took Aaron Rodgers' injury probably to happen, but
I also want to point out there's my supervisor, got a buddy named Chris who does an auction draft, and he asked me a question about auction draft. So auction draft, I'm not as familiar with auction draft, but
I love auction drafts. So
my advice on auction draft is obviously your big players are going to be your top dollar players. I'm not a big fan to try to get the big players. Try to get the value. You can probably get tier 2 players, 2 of them, for the price of one top 1 player. So,
well, the big thing about auction values that I love is everybody has a chance at every player. Because in the way you draft, if we draft a league, if you're picking 8th, you don't have a shot at David Johnson, Todd Gurley. You don't have a shot at them. But in auction draft, you have a shot at them. Now, it's up to you if you want to take that shot and spend the money on it. I'm more into let me load. I would rather have depth than the elite guys because if you get an elite guy injured and then
because most auction drafts you have a certain amount of dollars. Don't want to overspend getting those top tier players. We can get a lot more depth with the
but the way the auction works is you go in turn and you nominate a player. When you nominate a player, when it's your turn to nominate somebody who is going to be expensive to take away money from everybody else that you don't want. So you nominate the guy, you let the rest of the league bid on it, and take their money away and try to just do as many of those as you can to get the money out of the league. Therefore, when players that you do want come up, some of the other league has already spent money on that
cheaper
player.
Value for a player that could go a little bit
And it's all
higher.
about trying to spend your money and get value at certain positions. Also, there's a thing called price enforcing. If you feel like a guy's going, his value or where his auction is, where he's at is too low, if you want to price enforce, be ready to acquire that player for whatever price you price enforce at. And those are the two main things with auction drafts is
Fantasy
the way you do price enforcing, just be careful with it and make sure you're okay with getting rid of that guy and nominate players you don't want.
Fantasy Leprechaun said it first. So, Chris, if you're watching, I know you asked me a question, you asked Scott about auction drafts. Hopefully that kind of helps you out. If not, always message us on the Facebook page, Pigskin Dynasty, or all the other social medias. That being said, Scott, about to close up our show. Anything you want to say? Anything you want to bring up in the next couple of weeks? Anything to look out for? Blah, 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 etc.
Just that I defend John Elway. Colin Kaepernick had his chance to be a Bronco, and he turned him down.
Yeah, Colin
Elway's
Kaepernick.
taking some heat for that, because he was because it's kind of out of context with what he said, and I understand why he's getting heat for it, but I defend John Elway. You know, he tried getting Colin Kaepernick here. He tried working with him. I defend Elway on this. Kaepernick had his chance. He turned him down. You know, that's it. End of story.
That's all I said. Anyways, so guys, 3 more Sundays, man. Actually, 2 more Sundays now. Guess 2.5, whatever. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there to week 1.
Well, we're 3 Sundays away from Sunday football, but 3.5 from Thursday night.
I know. So we're almost there, baby. We're almost there. By the way, please follow us. Subscribe to whatever media that you choose to listen to us, whether it's iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Podbean. Follow us, Pigskin Dynasty. Follow us on Facebook. Hit that follow button. Hit that share button for us. Let's try to get to 2,000. We got to 1,500 views. Let's try to get to 2,000. I need you guys' help for that. Please. Any questions, anything you want to talk about, message us. We're available 24/7. We appreciate you guys for showing us the support. We want to help you guys out with any questions around the fantasy football. Last Sunday, week 4 of preseason, Flag on the Play, Pigskin Dynasty, Collab Part 3, Draft Edition. Check it out. All right? Any other questions? Feel free to hit us up. Until then, guys, we'll see you next week.
Go get you some jerseys.
We'll appreciate the support. Guys, be safe. Guys, have a great rest of your weekend. See ya.